What if your burnout wasn't personal? What if it was diagnostic? Not of you, but of the system you're stuck in.
Today, we're not talking about your anxiety or your lack of boundaries. We're talking about the real patient, culture itself. And right now, it doesn't seem very healthy.
Welcome to the Slog Pod, where we don't think the problem is you. We think it's everything you're in. So today we're going to take time to go back over the Slog Company's mission. At the Slog Co, we're not trying to fix people. We're trying to diagnose cultures, workplaces, governments, whole economies through a mental health lens. We see culture as a living system. So basically, if individuals show signs of dysfunction, say burnout, anxiety, disengagement, the system's probably sick. People aren't burned out because they're weak. They're burned out because they're in systems that overwork, invalidate, and emotionally exploit them.
So if the fish are sick, maybe it's the water.
I like the metaphor.
So let's look at the two big pools we swim in the most, our macro culture and our workplaces. Macro culture. What are some symptoms we see in society right now going on? Constant productivity demands. That's a big one. We might generally refer to that as hyperarousal. We just always feel this need to be producing.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Outrage cycles in politics, especially.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's a form of emotional dysregulation when
I'd agree with that.
going crazy over the next story that comes out and just then we move on to the next one to get mad about. We're not regulating our emotions necessarily in the healthiest way
Sure.
as a macro culture. I think the loneliness epidemic is a big one. And I think that speaks a lot to attachment wounds that we feel.
Absolutely.
And another big one is that learned helplessness that we've talked about, where citizens become disengaged, as an example. Well, I can't, my vote doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what I think or say. Nothing's going to change. So I'm just going to disengage. That's learned helplessness.
It is. And some of those macro culture type of distortions that go along with that. We talked about it in just our previous episode, talking about success being equal to self-worth, that sort of thing. Another one is freedom being an endless choice, even when it's toxic.
Mm-hmm.
Another big one is that rest equals laziness. And that's just not true.
Yeah, I hate that one.
Mm-hmm.
I like naps.
That's certainly pervasive in our culture.
Yeah.
Macro culture and in our organizational culture.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe the last one we're thinking of is connection being equal to performance. And all of these seem kind of just distorted. Something's wrong there as far as we talk about this macro culture as a mental health issue. I think we just laid out a lot of ways to think about that and how that might be a problem in our macro culture. So if our society was a client in therapy, I'd say it's anxious, dissociated, and deeply afraid of slowing down long enough to feel how lost it really is. So now that we've looked at the macro culture as a mental health problem, let's take on organizational culture, a little bit smaller piece of our systems, our overall systems, and look at that as a mental health problem. Some of those symptoms and distortions we might be encountering in that realm.
One big symptom that comes to my mind is the burnout. When that gets treated or viewed as a personal failure of some kind, burnout is normal. It happens. Everyone gets burned out. At least everyone I've known.
Sure.
It's a human reaction to having a lot on your plate. Sometimes that becomes so much that we burn out. It doesn't mean we failed, but it sure seems like as a symptom, I see that a lot in workplaces.
I think another symptom we've talked about many times is that unacknowledged kind of emotional labor, the performative stuff, just what we're getting from our workplaces as far as everything we're dealing with every day that is part of labor, that isn't that just making the widgets every day. It's our emotional stuff that comes with it.
What about leadership that's driven by optics, not outcomes? So it's all about appearances.
Yeah, I don't even think it's just leadership.
Yeah, it could just be the whole
It's everything.
Organization is driven mainly for optics. And that goes back to that performative piece too. But there's a lot of that performance.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on that performance and less so of what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
What are the outcomes, good or bad?
Yeah, absolutely. And another system of which we've talked about previously, that cultural fit, meaning employees masking
Yeah.
not only their true selves, but making up this identity or whatever it is to fit within what they think their organization is looking for or their leadership is looking for or whatever that is, not providing that authentic, genuine self, not allowing innovation, different thinking, or even being able to say that. That seems a big symptom in a workplace that could be problematic.
Yeah. And as far as underlying distortions that are likely occurring, I wonder if one of them might be the concept that if you're struggling, somehow you're the problem. To me, that seems like a distortion. Because again, struggle, to be challenged with something, to be having a difficult time, does that mean I'm a problem or does that mean I'm just doing something that's difficult? I think it's okay to say that struggling is normal.
And that not just normal, but good.
Right. It's good. If all of our jobs were easy, what would be the challenge anyway?
Yeah. We also talk about a distortion being that wellness is your job, not the company's.
Putting the onus on the individual.
Yes.
Instead of the
system that they're within, or that it all becomes their responsibility, or they're broken rather than the system's broken, of which you kind of put forth that metaphor in the beginning, the fish in the water or whatever, that it's the water that is often the problem.
Yeah. The water's full of toxic chemicals.
Absolutely. So that seems a big distortion to think it's the damn fish, the individual fish.
Right.
That's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
We've also talked about a distortion of teamwork means conformity.
Yeah.
And I would argue that if that's what it means, well, you're missing out on that innovation. You're missing out on different thought processes. You're missing out on individuality, diversity, all those things that can be so great for productivity and innovation in whatever company you're talking about. When you get that conformity, well, then you've got this homogeneous system that's been built, rather than you're going to get from a homogeneous system, you're going to get just that, right?
Yeah, it's just self-fulfilling
all
the time.
Yep, absolutely. You're only going to get that.
I think another big distortion is when we confuse success with over-functioning without complaint. Success, to me, there's so many elements of what makes a person successful in a role. And it's not just grinding my ass off and never complaining that makes me successful. And I think that's a common distortion in the workplace.
Yeah. I think that's a very common systemic distortion, probably universal.
Probably so. Yeah. So the modern company, then, it would seem, is more like a dysfunctional family pretending it's fine because everyone's still showing up for dinner.
Yep. So our perspective on this is we're kind of looking at why a mental health lens changes everything. Why putting this in a therapeutic realm has a different take on it. Hopefully produces different outcomes, right? Mental health focuses on diagnosing patterns and not blaming symptoms. It names distortions, both cognitive and narrative. The stories we're telling ourselves, the stories within our companies that we're telling our groups.
It also validates reality. It allows us to acknowledge what's really happening instead of gaslighting us or gaslighting ourselves, which we do a lot. And allows us, I think, ultimately to heal systems as a whole versus just focusing on healing the individual.
Yes. So by viewing culture like a client in therapy, we shift from blaming people to questioning the systems shaping them. We're looking at the water, not the individual fish. And that's what the Slog Co is here to do. We're not fixing you. We're interrogating everything you're trapped inside. We're asking the questions and trying to figure out, is this kind of the same that individuals do?
Yeah.
And if these distortions exist, are they problematic for productivity? Are they problematic for efficiency, innovation, change?
Mm-hmm. And the reason we're asking is hopefully to help you see that stuff for yourself, or see that in your organization or in the culture you're in, so you can start doing something about it. That's all. Like, we're not here to necessarily give advice. I like that we're breaking it down and trying to diagnose and identify these patterns, these distortions, and the like. Not to say we have all the answers, because we don't, but to at least get people questioning what's going on so they themselves can start working towards some solutions.
You know, I think that's a heavy lift.
Yeah?
I
Is it
feel
too heavy?
it might be, because I tell you what, as we look at individuals, as a therapist, individuals come to me when they think that there's a problematic outcome. And I'm skeptical about whether organizations would come because they think there might be a problematic outcome.
Yeah. So maybe it's more like we're describing what's going on with the water to the fish,
Right.
because we can't really, the water may not have any interest in getting rid of, filtering out the PFAS chemicals, the forever chemicals,
Yeah,
or the plastics or whatever. Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, why does this matter? I mean, why are we even doing this?
Well, I think it starts with people think their exhaustion is a personal failure.
And we don't like that.
No, we don't.
I hate when people do that.
And it's not just exhaustion, it's how we see our individual selves.
Yeah.
Our identity, I don't know that it should be wrapped up in that. I don't even know how connected it should be to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're asking that question to figure out, should it be, and to what extent?
Yeah. It's a major bummer when I talk to someone and I can see that happening. Like, it's actually harming their quality of life when they're not at work.
Mm-hmm.
The old on Sunday evening, oh, I just dread going to work. Oh, I'm just filled with anxiety and dread. That sucks. I don't like to see people going through that. I've certainly gone through it a lot in my life, but it's just not healthy.
Yeah. I think people internalize their corporate and cultural dysfunction as character flaws
Of their own.
of their own,
Yeah. Yeah.
of their own individual self. It just reinforces the I'm not enough statements, the self-esteem issues, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It really pushes on that. And I don't think that that's fair to us individually. Or like I said, I still think that has something to do with our organizational outcomes could be better if our individual outcomes were better.
Sure. So what are some questions we might ask to get people to see that differently? Could one be, are you broken, or are you just responding to a system that's broken?
That's a great question. I don't even know if we're doing that at all right now. In most of the organizations I've been in, it seems that oftentimes when there's poor outcomes, I would say most of the time, if not almost all the time, the fingers are pointed at an individual or a couple of individuals rather than the system that they're in.
Right. It's like,
and even if
it couldn't be us.
Right. Even if it is a system, is, well, why didn't you set up that system better? And there's some truth to that. But the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, and it's fluid in what that looks like. Or at least it seems like it probably is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another question would be, is your burnout failure, or is it a tool? A diagnostic tool to recognize there's a red flag time. I'm feeling burnout. And instead of going right to, well, there must be something wrong with me, I must be a wimp.
Sure.
Maybe saying, is there something else going on around me that's making me feel this way?
I wouldn't even just say burnout. I would say your angst.
Sure.
Your, as we're talking about kind of flags, problematic flags, your angst in everyday work, your problems in communication with other employees,
Mm-hmm.
with your superiors or those who work for you, all of those are questions I'd ask, right? And those are diagnostic.
Mm-hmm.
They are flags that something is wrong. And I think what we're asking that a lot hasn't been asked before is focused on the system rather than the individuals within that.
Yeah.
So the problem isn't necessarily inside you, it's around you.
Right. And you're having a problem with it being around you, which I think that's a fair way to frame that.
Mm-hmm.
Because we all go through our stuff. I get it. I totally get it. So we're not doing therapy for individuals. That's not our focus here. It's trying to do therapy for the cultures we're in, the systems we're in, because we're all living inside of them. And yet, a lot of the time, we're just pretending that everything's okay.
Or the systems are pretending they're okay.
Yeah.
The cultures are pretending it's okay.
When we, both us and the systems, know better.
That's no different than in individual therapy. People think that they're okay. People think that they're fine. And I think what we're saying is, let's look at the cultures as a system and ask those same questions. Is it fine? And remember too, once you come to that thought, you reinforce that you are, even when you're not. You'll tell yourself you're fine when you're not.
Yeah. And you'll employ all kinds of tricks to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you've been wondering what's wrong with you, maybe the question isn't why you're tired. Maybe it's what you've been carrying that was never yours to hold.
And that's what we're here to unpack at the Slog Co. That's what we're doing. One dysfunctional belief, one gaslighting policy, one fake cultural value at a time, one mind at a time.
Yeah. Welcome to the Slog.
Thanks for being with us. Cheers. See you next time.